Join us again today for another horror movie top 10 list. Today, action horror. Welcome back to all you folks who've been here before and to you new folks who've found your way here. Today, we're going to be doing another top 10 list. We've done a few in the past so far. Going to be sticking with the horror theme, even though we're kind of moving to November here. Mainly because I don't really think we're going to be doing Christmas movies, and there aren't 10 Thanksgiving movies. So here we go. Today is going to be action horror. And again, as with the other lists, most of these could really be in any order. It's really just going to be the last couple, which are the top 1, 2, 3 spots on the list that are really this is the order I would place them. The others are just, they should be on a top 10 list, just not necessarily, in this particular order, but they should be there somewhere. So, because it's kind of hard for me to put things in an exact order sometimes when we're talking the best of the best, if that's truly what they are in most of these cases, which I'd like to believe they are. So, anyway, here we go. Starting at number 10 is World War Z, which I'm sure some of you wondered about. Why isn't this on the zombie movie list? Well, this is why. Because it is, in my opinion, far more action-oriented than most of the other zombie movies, with another notable exception that, yes, you're going to see on here as well. This was the movie from, several years ago now, with Brad Pitt, based on the book by, I believe it's Mel Brooks' son, Max Brooks. I believe he's Mel Brooks' son. And essentially, zombie virus taking over the world, super fast zombies, make giant piles trying to get up to places, and people get infected really quickly. Interestingly, it was one of the few I've seen that tries to, I guess, have its cake and eat it too on the what are the zombies front. Because sometimes you have, it's a virus, okay? Sometimes you have, it's the rage virus, and sometimes it's voodoo zombies or alien radiation. Well, this one it's a virus. And what the virus does is kill you and reanimate your corpse. So they do have a conversation at one point in the movie where they point blank say, no, these creatures are dead. There's nothing living in them at all. Yet, here they are.
Which is the difference between it and the 28 days, weeks later.
Right, because those are people still alive.
Right, they have a medical condition.
Yeah. So, and I thought that was an interesting moment, kind of late in the movie, but also the cure, not so much the cure, but the way to fight them ended up being rather interesting, since their whole goal is to spread the virus. They don't target people that have terminal diseases because they don't make effective carriers, apparently, is what the virus is telling them. So to send people out to fight, they eventually just start organizing squads of people who are on the way out already. Or they start purposefully infecting people with curable but deadly diseases to send them out to fight the zombies. So,
tricky.
An interesting gambit to be sure. So moving on, rather new entry here on the list, Army of the Dead. That would be the Netflix movie from earlier this year, late last year.
I think a couple years maybe.
And it's a pure action movie. The zombie part is just basically just window dressing for this one.
Dave Bautista.
Yeah, there's a few other recognizable people, but I couldn't tell you who they were off the top of my head. But yes, essentially, the military has something from Area 51, and it's being transported, and the transport truck hits a car, box opens up, they radio it in, people at headquarters tell them to run, get the hell away from it. Turns out it's a soldier that's been infected with something, surprise, zombie virus, and he kills all those soldiers. they reanimate, and then they go to Las Vegas. And so the government
As one does.
So the government quickly walls off Las Vegas, and everyone that was stuck inside, well, you're kind of screwed. And yeah, so the big plan is the government is going to nuke the city because it's contained, but why risk it ever getting out? Let's just destroy it in a way that we know should destroy everything. So the main characters are all people who made it out of the city. So the guy hiring them knows, well, most of them, except for I think the locksmith guy, most of them have experience with the zombies. That's why they're being hired. One of the guys, they're being hired by a gentleman who owns a hotel. The vault in the hotel is full of money. Well, he's already been compensated by the insurance company. So if anyone can go in and get this money, it's just free money. And it's like 60, 70, some odd, tens of millions of dollars, okay? And he basically just wants his cut, and they'll get the rest. And of course, there's really a shady secret mission with his guy going in there. His job is to get some kind of sample of the virus to bring back to give to the government for some undisclosed sum of money, I'm sure. So, yeah, and the bomb's going to drop on the 4th of July weekend to, patriotism. So, yeah, so that's the plan. So they go in, realize they're getting double-crossed, have to try to escape. The bomb drops early. The end of the movie is, if at all possible, imagine the end of the movie Aliens, but with zombies instead of xenomorphs. And that's basically what happens. It's literally, hey, we've got to escape. No, wait, we've got to go back for the daughter. Okay, then the big bad evil king zombie is going to be there waiting on us to fight it out for the daughter as we all escape on the ship as the nuclear bomb goes off in the background. I mean, I'm assuming that the director thought that no one would notice that he literally just copied the end of the movie Aliens, except had zombies.
I think he was counting on nobody noticing until the film was released.
Yeah, well. So, anyway, yeah, still an entertaining movie, though. Not what I would call high drama by any stretch, but then again, nothing on this list is. So, worth a watch. Pretty sure there's going to be a sequel, maybe a prequel. They're definitely going to make some more of these because it did really well on Netflix, however Netflix registers these things. So up next, number 8 is Mandy. Now, you can probably debate whether or not this is a horror movie. I believe that it is, given most of the elements present. This stars Nicolas Cage, and it takes place in the 80s. I have no idea why, because there's nothing in it in particular that had to be in the 80s to make it work. Other than no one has cell phones. That's my guess as to why.
How long ago was it made?
Like 3 or 4 years ago.
Big 80s retro thing going on too.
I mean, but there's not even much of that either. There's not like tons of 80s music. There's not tons of 80s movie references. I mean, if it didn't tell you it was in the 80s, if I put this movie in and you didn't know it was in the 80s and cut all references to that, you'd think it took place now. Except for the fact that people don't have phones.
Well, that's probably it then.
So, anyway, he and his wife, girlfriend, it's been a while, I'm not 100% clear, attract the attention of some cultists who the cult leader decides that he has to have the girl. So, goes and tries to take her. And after shooting her up with assorted illicit substances, he presents himself to her, and let's just say she's not impressed.
Oh.
And makes this very well known with lots of laughing, which is not the greatest idea when you're around a bunch of deranged lunatics that follow the commands of this guy. And yeah, so he puts her in a bag and sets her on fire. Right in front of Nicolas Cage, who's being held in place by barbed wire.
Barbed wire.
Yeah. So once she burns to death and they leave, they also make a very novice mistake of not killing Nicolas Cage.
And that's like old school Batman stuff.
Yeah, so they leave and he eventually gets his way out, confirms that she is very obviously dead. Goes inside, has a drink, screams for a minute, then goes and gets his weapons from his good buddy Bill Duke, and decides he's going to kill all these people. And their weirdo, like, pseudo Cenobite biker buddies who helped out. So, yeah. Then we have a little diversion where he demonstrates he definitely paid attention in metals class as he makes this, like, big axe batleth thing. And,
Batleth?
like from Star Trek The Next Generation, the Klingon weapons. With like a big steel spike at the other end. And yeah, then goes, first he finds the bikers, kills most of them. As he's leaving, well, he killed one of them who was in the middle of partaking of a giant mountain of cocaine.
Oh.
And as he's leaving, he's kind of like, well. So he goes over and hits the sauce. And then he finds the like super duper LSD that the cultists gave these guys, and is just like, well, in for a penny, in for a pound, and hits some of that. The movie goes to claymation for a few minutes as Nicolas Cage's mind explodes, and then he goes and fights the gang leader. Ends up decapitating him. And then I believe, if I recall correctly, he sets his head on fire and uses his burning head to light his cigarette.
The motorcycle gang leader?
Yes. Then he goes off, deals with the scientist-ish guy who's making the drugs for these folks, who has like a one-way conversation with Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage never says anything. I don't know if the other guy's just like completely out of his mind on his own supply, or if Nicolas Cage has evolved to have telepathic powers by this point. Like, this is a very weird movie. And then he finds the cultists at their weird church, kills them one by one in a chainsaw fight.
Oh.
And then gets down, like, underground under the church where the cult leader is, and smashes his head with his bare hands. Like, tears his skull apart. Then sets the church on fire.
Nick made some strange movies in the last decade.
Yes. And then as he's driving off, like, he sees his girlfriend in the seat next to him. And then, like, the last shot is, like, several moons in the sky. And it's just weird. Just weird. All the way around. But lots of action, lots of weirdness, lots of Nicolas Cage killing people in very, very violent ways. So, next up, number 7. The Blade movies, primarily the first two. I thought the third one was a little weaker than the other two. It's still watchable, but it's definitely not on par.
Oh, that's good. I was looking at that, like, I didn't even know there was like a Blade 7.
So the first two were two of the early, successful adaptations of Marvel Comics, pre-X-Men.
That first one still has the most iconic vampire scene in any movie that I've ever seen.
Yeah, the opening scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With the dance party with the blood coming out of the fire sprinklers.
Yeah. So the movies are fairly straightforward vampire movies with lots of action, but remember they are based on comics, so they do eventually find their way into weird comic booky territory with, in the first one, the vampires trying to become a god, and the second one trying to create more daywalkers like Blade.
I thought the whole point of that movie was to make Ryan Reynolds an action star.
No, it's the third movie.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the lesser entry in the franchise. Not Ryan Reynolds' fault. He was hilarious in that movie. But, yeah, so these, like I said, lots of action. Again, early adaptation of the Marvel movies that actually worked. These are pre-X-Men and Spider-Man. But they are very hard R. Because lots of violence, lots of blood, as one would expect from a vampire movie. The only thing between them is you pick up an extra character in the first movie that you never see again. A character that you're pretty damn sure is dead in the first movie, you come across again in the second movie, and yeah, so you get a little bit of things like that, and I don't know. The only issue I ever had with him was I never quite understood how vampires have super strength, obviously, and regenerative abilities, etc., etc. They're clearly physically superior to humans. So, a half breed should, in theory, not even be as strong as them.
Right.
And yet, Blade appears to almost be stronger.
Well, I mean, so in a lot of like sci-fi and fantasy movies, I always have to question where it lost you. Was that it? I mean,
Well, it didn't lose me. It's just a one of these things, and also like the bad guys are smart enough to have armies of armed guards, but not smart enough to give them armor-piercing bullets when they know their opponent wears body armor.
yeah, yeah,
And it's one of those like, come on, guys! Like some of you supposedly are like at least a few hundred years old, if not older.
yeah. Well, it's just one of those things. Every once in a while, you got to suspend disbelief. I mean,
Yeah, but it makes it so your enemies aren't credible at that
no,
point.
no, I get it. I get it. For now, I will say that that's for someone like you and many other people out there who, what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Dissect the movies. I think most people that watch movies wouldn't even have noticed that. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, the problem is like there's literally vampires that survive the first part of the movie that see him get shot, and the bullets clearly hit a bulletproof vest.
No, I understand.
Like literally that vampire should be like, "Hey guys, by the way, in case you didn't notice, those plates on his chest
Right.
are bulletproof plates.
Right,
Like,
right.
Let's get something around that."
What I'm saying is the same reason that I like the things like Lord of the Rings when people who care more than me about the process don't like it because of all the problems that it has. Whereas I'm willing to not even see those things because I'm just trying to be entertained. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing or anything that you dissect the movies. I'm just saying I think there's a whole population of movie watchers who don't even notice those things that you're talking about.
Oh, I'm sure there are.
Yeah.
It's just it's right there. It's quite blatant.
For someone like you who's watching those things.
No, like you literally see him get hit and sparks
No,
fly and everything.
yeah,
I mean,
get-
like the movie made a point to show that shit to you. Like, it's right there.
I totally get that. All I'm saying is there's people that wouldn't even notice that. That wouldn't even.
Well, that's fine if they don't. The movie makers did. They put it in there. Like that's what I'm saying. It's a defective movie quality. The movie makers screwed up. Is what I'm saying.
But my only point is for half the population, there's no problem at all. That's my only point. Half, maybe more.
Okay, but that's beyond my point. Like
I know.
half the movie making population thought Titanic was the best movie ever made for a long
Right.
time,
Right.
and it's not, folks.
No, not at all.
Nor is Avatar, to be clear. And to go ahead and complete it, no, Top Gun Maverick isn't either. Top Gun Maverick was good. Is it the highest grossing movie ever good? No, it's not. But anyway, so from that, in the second movie, seeing that the vampires are specifically training a group of vampires whose job is going to be to go find and kill Blade is like, okay, so at least some of them were paying attention and realize there is a threat that needs to be eliminated.
I totally understand your point.
And so, I'm just saying it's, to my mind, it's, for a movie that tries to portray the vampires as smart, because like the whole, hey, why don't we try sunblock? Which actually shouldn't work because there's parts of your body you don't naturally put sunblock on, like your head, like up here, and the sun would hit it and incinerate you. But again, ignoring that for a moment, I thought that was why hasn't a vampire ever tried that in another movie before? That was, in my opinion, somewhat clever. But for people that think things like that, the other is a major, come on, guys. It's right there.
I feel like I just watched a vampire movie that did that.
Oh, there's probably some other one that has before. I'm just
Oh
saying.
no, I'm not even saying that you were wrong about that. And I'm just saying that made an image flash in my mind. I think recently, like within the last couple of weeks, I've watched a vampire movie that people tried to slather on stuff.
Yeah. So like I give it points for that, and the whole the bulletproof vest thing. It's not like it takes me out of the movie. It's not like, oh, this movie sucks. Otherwise, it wouldn't be on the top 10 list. But I'm just saying, it's one of those, like, that's to me, that's an oversight in production. So, going on to number 6, Underworld. Let's say most of the franchise. I didn't watch Blood Wars yet, so maybe that should be in here, maybe not. I don't know. Leave it up to you folks. I thought the other 4 were all of roughly the same quality. So, for those of you that don't know, the whole plot there is there are vampires and werewolves who have been at war since very shortly after they've been able to create werewolves as we know them, because their progenitor cannot control himself at all and is in constant werewolf mode. There is no human side left. These are ones more like in the Wolfman, where they change in the full moon. And then by the time Underworld takes place a couple hundred years later, they have mastered being able to shift back and forth and are not slaves to the full moon. These are basically these are action movies with trappings of giving us a reason why the characters can't just die to normal bullets, basically. So, of course, that means they have special bullets because they still both use guns. And here, to my mind, the big problem is neither side thinks to wear bulletproof vests, knowing that their opponents use bullets. But, again... other than that, the movies, to my mind, they make sense for the most part. They never actually tell you where they're taking place. I'm assuming it's going to be like the Czech Republic or something, kind of just based on the background stuff. It's somewhere in Eastern Europe. They just don't say where.
I would assume so.
Unless they did in the prequel and I missed it, which is possible.
I don't think I saw the prequel.
But
I think I've just seen the 3.
It's also good. It sets up. It shows when Lucian was born, because he's the first one that he was born to werewolves. One of them got turned and was pregnant, and so he was born and he's able to control it, and he's the progenitor of all the others. So, yeah.
Are there other every werewolf in the world, or all the ones in this movie?
All the ones in the Underworld movies, they're all from him, because he's the one that can control it. So
I get that.
I mean, he didn't necessarily bite all of them, but he's the source.
No,
so,
I understand.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you were saying he was the source of all werewolves alive or just in the movie.
Yeah. So, although in the second one you do see ones that are bitten by the one of the two brothers that's the werewolf, but he's in permanent werewolf mode. There's no human part of him left. So the people he bites are like that. And that's the problem. You see at the very beginning of the second one, as the vampires are trying to take out this village that's been everyone there was bitten by him, so they're trying to kill them before they all turn, and because they're trying to stop it, because they realize that he's just his population is gonna grow exponentially, and they might not normally care about that, but since they feed on blood, they gotta look out for that factor. But yeah, so the movies, the vampires have a system whereby there are 3 of them who are the elders, and they kind of one of them rules for a century, while the other 2 are in hibernation, and they kind of shift around. And so this movie takes place right as the change is supposed to occur, and the second in command of the vampires decided that he's had enough playing second fiddle, so he teams up with the werewolves to take them out, not knowing that the werewolves have a plan to create a werewolf-vampire hybrid that will make them basically unstoppable, is the plan. And so the vampires, the main one who is awoken...
and he's not too happy about it.
Yeah, and his name escapes me, but he's definitely of a purity of the bloodlines type. He killed his own daughter because she was pregnant with a hybrid. And so you kind of get the impression that, he's a...
hardliner.
Yeah. So he gets killed, and the guy does get turned into the hybrid, and so then the second movie is basically everyone's after them, and the other elder is awoken, but after he's been tainted with the werewolf blood also, and the whole deal is these people are descendants from one guy who has blood that he has something in him that makes him immortal, but also like open to mutation or something that doesn't 100% explain it. And his two sons, one was bitten by a bat, one was bitten by a wolf. They're the progenitors of the vampires and the werewolves.
Well, that's a whole Remus and Romus thing.
So the one that's bitten by the bat, he's one of the vampire elders because he's the one who turned the other two elders. Well, the chamber where he's in, where he's asleep, they killed a werewolf, and so his blood gets down into the chamber he's in, which infects him and turns him into a hybrid also. And so his plan is, well, he's going to go find his imprisoned brother and do the same to hopefully bring some kind of mental sanity back to him. And their father's in it also, the Corvinus, the main guy. The main character, Selene, ends up drinking his blood and becoming something else, which in the future movies allows her to walk in sunlight, and she's the only one that can. I think in Blood War she starts letting the other vampires drink her blood to gain this ability, but again, I've only seen bits and pieces of it, so I don't know for sure. The fourth one featured a rather interesting plot line where the werewolves like, hey, let's go public, show the world the vampires and werewolves exist, but a small number of us have hidden ourselves away in the scientific community, so we won't be discovered. And then we're going to like create some like souped up super blood so we become unstoppable and take over. And it was a bizarre plan because it's, obviously this is really going to blow up in your face if you do this wrong. So, yeah.
On the vampire tip, I recently started watching some True Blood on your recommendation from the Vampire
Yeah.
top 10 list. I'm about 6 or 7 episodes in, I'd say.
Yeah.
Just all the blood just made me think of that.
Excuse me. There will be werewolves in that eventually too, and other weird creatures. So
yeah,
just be ready. It's all coming at some point. So moving on from Underworld to number 5, The Purge. Now, I would say it's almost debatable that these are horror movies in and of themselves. But I feel like that's where most people classify them, so that's why I threw this one on here. They're definitely filled with action and over-the-top death scenes.
I watched the first one. Wasn't a fan. Didn't watch anymore. Don't like the whole idea of it. Don't like the idea of putting the idea out there.
I only watched the first 2, mainly because I don't remember why I ended up watching the second one. Because for those of you that don't know, the concept is at some point in the future, the United States is refounded, I believe is the expression they use. And so for one 12-hour period, one day out of the year, all crime, they say all crime, there's exceptions, but almost all crime, up to and including murder, is legal. So,
just so you can work out your issues in that 1 12-hour period.
Yeah. That's the prevailing theory that the movie's put forward.
And the best way to do that is for just roving gangs of ne'er-do-wells running around. I mean, there might be an accountant that dresses up in road warrior gear and runs around with a baseball bat with spikes sticking out of it, whopping people in their head.
Yeah. So, my primary issue with the whole concept is I think that would happen exactly once, and it would not stop once the warning bells went off. Because, like similar, like you wind up in a situation at the end of this first movie. Ethan Hawke's character sells security systems for people for the Purge. Okay, and so
you could theoretically bunker yourself in.
Right. So his neighbors decide that, oh, he's getting a little uppity making money off of them, and they come over to kill him and his family, even though he's sold them the bunkers and everything, because why should he profit off their stuff? Because he is supposed to be one of the rich people or something. I don't know. They sounded completely insane to me. But yeah, so he ends up getting killed. I don't think it's by them, though. I think it's by the other roving gang that they mostly kill. And then, like, his wife just sits there, and they all just sit there until the warning bell goes off. And then she's like, now, get the hell out of my house. And personally, I would have been like, so now I'm going to shoot you. Like, I just want you to think you're going to be safe, because, he came to kill me. Like, I'm not just going to let people go that do that.
Nope.
That's crazy.
Nope.
And which is the follow on to my original thought of like, well, suppose obviously a loved one of yours is taken out right in front of you and you can see who it is, and then the warning bells go off or whatever. Are you really just going to let that slide? No, you're not going to wait a year to get revenge. You're going to do that right then and there. And also, fire services are suspended for those 12 hours. You're trying to tell me people aren't going to be burning down half the cities elsewhere?
Are you telling me insurance companies are going to let that happen?
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of there's problems with the premise. The main reason it's on here is because it's seriously action packed.
It's full of action.
Yeah, and that's also why I didn't bother to watch the others. Like I
I
said, I watched the second one, but
I don't even like the idea of government sanctioned mass violence inside the borders. I just don't.
No.
I don't like it because it's getting a little too real.
Oh no, the bits and pieces I've seen of the other movies, by the way, like they begin to take into account things that people say about them. Like I think it's the third one, the part I watched mentions tourism, people from other countries coming here for that reason, and it's just like there's a part of it. It's like
Capitalism.
That's a little too real.
Yeah.
I don't even know it's capitalism. I mean,
It's totally capitalism.
well, they're not paying people to shoot people. They're only paying them for the airline ticket. I mean,
No, they're paying them to come and watch the.
no, they're not coming to watch. They're coming to partake.
Well, right, but that's what I mean. But they're coming to Gladiator. You know what I mean?
Well, I know, but that's not a capitalism thing. No one's like, hey, they're not like selling shit like that.
Well, somebody's.
They're coming here because it's legal to buy a gun in the United States.
All right. No, I get
Or
that.
weapons and whatnot.
Okay.
I'm saying that there's not a. It could be a socialist country and that happening, and that people are still going to do it. Like it has nothing to do with capitalism. But anyway, although there are definitely aspects of the movies that imply that the richer folks seem to be able to protect themselves quite a bit better, which that obviously would be a function of capitalism. But yeah. So also, well, side note, generally speaking, if you want to see those richer folks get what's coming to them in these movies, I understand that in the later movies they definitely do. So, just a little tidbit. So on to number 4, End of Days. This one almost wound up in the demonic movies because the devil is the villain, but I seem to recall there was quite a bit of action in it.
Yeah, there was.
There's possessions going on, but that's almost secondary to Arnold shooting things and blowing things up and seeing his partner get killed twice. Yeah, because as he put it, it's amazing the things you'll agree to when you're on fire. So, but yeah, a decent movie. Again, you're mainly looking for the action, seeing Arnold fight the devil, and which is every bit as preposterous as it sounds. Because, you're not going to beat the devil with an M16, in all likelihood, I wouldn't think. Could be wrong, I don't know. Not much of a church scholar, not going to lie. For all I know, there's a secret writ in the Vatican that says that's exactly how you do it, but I'm doubting that.
I am a little bit of a church scholar, by the way.
Well,
Just saying.
does the church have a official stance on whether modern firearms will have any effect against the devil?
Yeah, but no. I'm more of, I guess, my brain doesn't work. Comparative religion scholar than I am a church scholar per se. I don't know as much about each individual church.
I got you.
But yes, I think the Vatican has decided that bullets won't work on the devil.
So yeah, I mean, basically, this is Arnold kind of towards the end of the action career. This is somewhere around the time he made like The Sixth Day, and which was also still a decent movie.
Last Action Hero.
Yeah, this is a few years after Last Action Hero.
But at that same time, though, right?
Yeah, definitely a wildly misunderstood movie if you folks have never seen it.
Eraser.
Eraser was good, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just saying that's that same time period.
So then moving on to number 3,
They remade Eraser.
I saw something about that. Is it like a series now? Yeah. I mean the premise could definitely work, beyond just what Arnold did in the movie. So I could see it. So moving on to number 3, Resident Evil, and here I do mean pretty well all of the movies. Not the show on Netflix. It was quite terrible. Don't watch it at all.
I didn't.
Then, yeah, these are the movies with Mila Jovovich that pay bare lip service to the video games, if that, in most of them. So
It's Raccoon City still.
it is up until the second one when it gets nuked,
Right.
and then they go back to it in the last one.
Well, that's weird.
Yeah. So if you watch these movies all the way through, the whole idea is the Umbrella Corporation, and this part is accurate from the games, has created, although in the games I think they found it and then manipulated it, a virus called the T virus, which, when normal people are exposed to it, it kills them and turns them into zombies. One in every something like 100,000 people will become a creature called the Tyrant, which is like a 9-foot tall armored killing machine. Some mutant gene that they're kind of on the lookout for. And then almost every other form of life can be infected with this virus. Animals, plants, everything. This thing getting out would be the ultimate doomsday scenario because there would be no stopping it. So, first
Makes
movie,
ugly Doberman pinchers too.
yeah. So the first movie is they take the concept of the game that there's the mansion out in the woods, but this is entirely in a massive lab underneath Raccoon City. So the secret entrance is the mansion, then down to the lab, and that's where they had the virus. The virus was released intentionally, and then the lab sealed itself down because the Umbrella people aren't completely stupid. Sure, world-ending virus, but they also know it shouldn't really get out, so there are security measures to make sure it can't. So now a team of operatives has to go in, figure out what happened, and they only have a certain amount of time to do it before giant blast doors are going to completely seal the place up. So they go to the mansion first, where they find Mila Jovovich's character, who is passed out and doesn't have memories, and you find out this is because of the defense system of the hive, the base. Because anyone trying to escape, that's where they've got to go. So the hope is the gas will knock them out, and the team that has to come will find them, like what happens in the movie. And they pick up the other people along the way that they find like this. So they go into the hive. Eventually, people's memories all come back, and you realize one of the guys with them is the guy who intentionally let it out because he was planning on selling it. Because he also has the antivirus. But all that is back on the train they first came in on, and not with them in the hive at this particular moment.
Genius.
So, yeah.
People in movies is so stupid.
So, pretty well everyone except for Mila Jovovich and the guy whose name I can't think of off the top of my head. Pretty much everyone else dies. Michelle Rodriguez, she gets bit, she turns. The main guy gets killed by the laser grid. Actually, that's where almost all of them buy it. Like 3 or 4 of them buy it right there.
In that hallway.
Yeah. And
that's when the like security system is kind of working against them.
Yeah, the Red Queen is working against them, and because her job is to make sure the virus doesn't get out. She doesn't give a damn about any individual person. So they turn her back on, and they install something so with a flick of a switch they can fry her, and which they do at the end of the movie to get out.
Spoilers.
after she unleashes one of the bigger, badder creatures to fight them. So yeah, so that's the first movie. Then the second movie picks up where the first one left off. The Umbrella people like, hey, let's go back inside the hive, and they do, and they release the virus, which ends up taking over the city. They build a big wall around the city. Well, the city is set up in such a way there's only one road in and out that has to cross a bridge. So they build a wall right there and arm it to the teeth. They get their people out as quickly as possible and leave everyone else to be turned to zombies and die. Because they know that they're going to nuke the city. And so you find out that Alice, that's Mila Jovovich's character, got exposed to the virus, but her body, she's one of the handful of people that it doesn't just turn her into a creature. It gave her powers. And the guy, Matt, the other guy, he got exposed to the virus. He gets turned into the Nemesis, one of the creatures from the game. So they have to fight it out because Umbrella wants to know which one of them's the stronger one. So they can take their genetic samples and do nefarious things with them. Ends with the city getting nuked. Matt dies. The new people Alice meets along the way, though, they all make it with her into the helicopter and make it out of the city. Then you see her in an Umbrella facility because the helicopter crashed, and you see that she's got psychic powers now, and so she gets out, and they all load up and take off, but you see that the Umbrella people know that it's really her friends in disguise, and so they're keeping track of her with a satellite. Third movie, they're like, okay, so the virus got out completely and pretty well destroyed the Earth. It's now a sun-blasted desert wasteland, because apparently by doing that, you dried up all the water somehow. Doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense. Don't try to think about it. Didn't even have to do that, because the movie takes place in the American Southwest, where it's already a desert. They didn't have to do that. It was stupid. So, more shenanigans with the virus. All of this ultimately culminates in finding out that in the last movie, that Umbrella realized that the world was on the verge of economic and ecological collapse. So they were going to take all their people that they considered important, put them into cryogenic suspension, release the virus, have it kill off everybody, and then they had a way that they were going to get all the zombies in one spot and release the antivirus, which will kill them because they're shambling corpses. You turn them back into people, their bodies aren't going to function. And then they will inherit the now devastated Earth. It's a stupid plan. But anyway, that's their plan. Alice is really a clone of one of the people that works for Umbrella, an old lady. There's a younger clone of the old lady. The main bad guy from 2 and 3 is a clone of like the main bad guy who came up with this plan, which is why he also has yet another clone roaming the wasteland. Lots of clones, lots of people with like cybernetic upgrades and superpowers and just weird baloney and zombies and nukes, and they thought it was a really good idea to build this base underneath Raccoon City, and they got really, really lucky that the nuclear bomb only barely exposed the top of it instead of collapsing it with the pressure wave, which is what should have happened. So, yeah, the movies get quite absurd as they go along. But to say they're action-filled is an understatement. So, that's why they're here. But yes, they definitely get quite absurd. You should probably just watch the first two. But if you can stomach it after that, keep going. I think they're going to reboot them at some point, though. So, hopefully being more faithful to the games, but we'll see.
Never played the game, so...
You're missing out. They're good games.
Well, I just don't play games. But the video games, I just don't.
So, number 2 on the list is Predator. Now, the whole franchise should be on here, but I do primarily mean the first movie at the number 2 spot. It is the best of the 4. The other 3 are definitely watchable. In my opinion, they become less watchable as they go along. Like 2 is definitely the second best one, 3 is the third best, and 4 is the fourth best.
Have you seen the new Hulu joint?
I haven't seen Prey yet. That's the only one I haven't seen. I hear it is good.
Well, I liked it,
which
but
might
I don't.
which might disrupt my ordering on that. But
Well, I liked it, but I wasn't looking. You know what I mean? I was entertained by it.
well, I've heard it's like people that are even people that are pickier, it's good. So
So I wouldn't
just-
even know what they would be picking at, but I didn't. So I just on a purely entertainment level, I liked it.
So again, I haven't seen it, but again, I hear it's good. If you like these four or any of these four, check it out too, or just check it out. And let me know.
It's actually, I think, a good play on like it's a prequel, obviously, long, many years prequel. But yeah, I like that.
I hear it actually
idea.
ties into Predator 2.
Perhaps it does.
Well, at the end of Predator 2, the main Predator like turns towards Danny Glover since he successfully killed the one Predator. The Predator franchise, the Predators are alien reptilian creatures who come to Earth and other planets, but we only really see Earth, to hunt people.
Sport hunting,
Yeah. And so they collect
just like
trophies.
someone from Southern Indiana would go to Colorado to hunt elk.
Yeah. So they collect trophies. Mainly the skulls, but
And spines.
but also like little bits and doodads. So in the second Predator movie, which is the first one where we see more than one of them, because it's just the one in the first movie, Danny Glover manages to kill the one who's been terrorizing L.A., but he's on board their ship whenever he does so. And once he kills him, several others, they've got cloaking technology to make themselves invisible. Several others decloak. He thinks that, like, well, okay, this is it, but they just come and pick up the body of their fallen comrade, take off, and they're all walking back to the ship. And then the guy that appears to be the leader turns around, kind of looks at him, looks down at his belt, and pulls out a, like, Revolutionary War era pistol. And I believe it says, like, 1716 or 1713, something like that on it, and tosses it to him and tells him to take it. They can mimic the sounds they hear, and so
Yeah, I guess there was a couple like black powder guns in Prey.
no.
So perhaps so, yeah.
So yeah, but yeah. So that's where the second one ends. The third one, the first one is Arnold and like the most testosterone fueled group of guys you're ever going to see
Oh,
down in the jungle.
the wrestler that was the governor of Minnesota, Jesse.
Yeah, Jesse
Ventura.
Ventura's in there. Bill Duke.
The big
I don't
native
know the
who
guy's name.
plays Billy Bear.
Yeah, I think his name might actually be Billy. Then, oddly enough, one of the smaller guys, though, if you watch the movie, the guy who's trying to always tell jokes to Billy is Shane Black, who's the guy who wrote and directed the fourth Predator movie.
Huh.
Also, Iron Man 3, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, one or two of the Lethal Weapon movies, whichever one takes place on Christmas. The man's obsessed with Christmas. Which is why Iron Man 3 takes place on Christmas. And so, yeah, so that's him.
And you said there wasn't a top 10 list of Christmas movies.
Oh, no, there could be. I'm just saying it probably won't be. So then the third one, though, they actually embrace the whole, hey, these are aliens. And so they're people who find themselves trapped on an alien planet that have been brought there by the predators. And that also introduces the concept that there are multiple types of the predators. There's the ones we've seen up till now in the movies, and then there are ones that are much larger than them, who seem to pick on them for sport as well.
And this was the first time that there was that I remember in those, that there was like a legitimate, respected, like, thespian. One Adrian Brody in 4?
Yeah, he's in the fourth one. Oh, the third one, yeah.
The third one.
Yeah, Adrian Brody's in that. Danny Trejo. Topher Grace. So the guy played that's on
70 Show.
yeah. And Lawrence Fishburne as not Danny Glover.
right?
Yeah, that's the character that a lot of people like to pretend probably is Danny Glover. That like they came back to Earth like, oh, you've been judged worthy. Like we're going to take you for further competition. And one of the corpses looks vaguely like Arnold that they find, and but probably not. So anyway, that one's them trapped on an alien planet fighting the predators. It's also good in my opinion. Then the fourth one is you find out that the predators are in fact like trying to upgrade their own genetic code to make themselves better, but also like resistant to whatever is going to happen to the planet that they're planning on moving to next. Because like ours, for instance, and or something like that, which is why they're after the skulls and spines. They need the DNA material from them to incorporate into their own genetic code.
Spinal fluid.
Yeah. So, and there you see more of the split between the two types of the predators because one of the predators brings an armored suit and like, here humans like fight back. Presumably because the predators haven't had the best of luck fighting humans. So, but yeah. And then number one on the list is Aliens. I do specifically mean the second movie.
Hence
Yes, because the first and third are horror movies and the fourth one is something. But the second one is action in space in Hadley's Hope fighting the aliens. It is basically Space Vietnam versus the aliens. That was James Cameron's idea anyway. So you have Ripley return from the first movie after finding out she's been in hypersleep for 57 years. In a deleted scene, you find out she had a daughter who died of old age while she was asleep. I really wish they would have left that in because it would make some other parts of the movie make even more sense. You can already pick up where they're going with it in the movie, but that would really drive the point home. So she is the company doesn't believe her at all as to why she blew up a very expensive starship. And as far as she's concerned, the company doesn't need to believe her. They can, stick where the sun doesn't shine. But they still plan on billing her. So after the meeting, she's like, well, why don't you just send someone out there to check it out? Like, well, we don't have to. There's a colony there. It's like 60 families live there. She's like, what? Like, yeah, there's all kinds of people there. I never found this alien thing you're talking about, lady. You're crazy. So, well, time goes on, and the company guy, Burke, played by Paul Reiser, and totally not what he normally plays. Normally, he's like a happy-go-lucky kind of pseudo-funny guy, and here he's just like total corporate stooge that should definitely be shot.
Well, it's closer to his role in Stranger Things than his sitcom for sure.
Well, I think they specifically chose him for Stranger Things
because of
that. Because then they would set up people expecting him to be the company guy,
right? And then
it turns out that like no, he actually does care about 11,
right?
Like,
but I'm just saying that character is more in line with that than his Helen Hunt sitcom.
Yeah. So he's like, hey, amazing coincidence. We lost contact with the colony. We're going to send some ships out there. Like, you want to tag along?
Excuse me.
And Ripley agrees on the condition that they're going out there to destroy them. Not to bring them back. Not to study them. Not to anything else. To destroy them. They're like, yeah, sure, of course that's the plan. Obviously not, but, whatever. So she loads up with the Marines, and they take off. And then on the way there, you get to see all the Marines. You got Michael Biehn in the last-minute recast. That was originally supposed to be James Remar.
Who's James Remar?
Did you ever see The Warriors?
Uh-huh.
He's the one that ended up handcuffed to the bench and got arrested.
Okay.
That's him.
All right. Now, the Michael Biehn, he's the one, the blonde guy from, like...
Terminator.
Okay. Navy SEALs.
He was Reese, yeah. Yeah. So he was, like I said, last minute recast. Then you had I can never remember his name, the guy that played Hudson.
What else was he?
Twister.
Pullman.
Yeah.
No, not Pullman. Bill Paxton.
Bill Paxton, yeah. Bill Paxton. And let's see. I had to look up her name for something else. Janine something.
Garofalo.
No, not Garofalo. No, she would not fit in this movie at all.
I really like her, by the way.
Yeah, it'll come to me here in a minute. Anyway, so you got this collection of
That's only Janine's I know.
Yeah. And I could be mistaken. Maybe like her last name's like some variant of Janine. But anyway. It'll come to me once we're done filming, I'm sure. So look for a little, if I haven't already put it in, there's going to be a little thing right here that tells you who I'm talking about. She plays Vasquez. But you got them. Most of the others are just, generic side actors. I couldn't tell you who they are. But also Lance Henriksen is Bishop, the robot, who Ripley initially has a major problem with, given that the last robot tried to kill her. But now this one's completely on their side, although there's a moment later in the movie where she's like, oh, he totally screwed us. Screw you, Bishop. And then he comes back. He's like, no, like, the place is falling apart. I'd leave. Sorry. Came back for you. And then the Queen rips him in half. So, this movie, like I said, there's, unlike the first movie where there's a singular alien, this movie has lots and lots of aliens because they have taken over the people and chest bursted all kinds of nasties. And you find out partway through the movie that Burke directed them to go check out the ruins, gave them the coordinates and everything. And so that's the point where they decide they're going to shoot Burke, except then the aliens bust in. So then an alien kills Burke, presumably.
Apropos.
And, yeah. So most of the Marines actually don't get killed, actually get drugged back to the hive. But Ripley says, they're as good as dead. The only thing to go in there would be to shoot them because they've been infected. And they have a firefight near a very sensitive piece of the equipment. And so Bishop's like, hey, you guys are going to check this thing out, see a big flare. And Hicks just kind of shakes his head. He's like, how long before it blows? And so he tells them, and yeah. So also they've got a matter of hours before the whole place gets reduced in a massive nuclear explosion. And but it's going to be like 17 days before the relief crew comes to find them, the backup. And they know they're not going to last 17 hours. So they have to get a plan to get it away, and they do, to bring another drop ship down from the ship in orbit. And so it's just basically almost nonstop action. Ripley takes a serious liking to the little girl that they find as a like mother-daughter kind of deal, which again, I feel that's why they really should have left the deleted scene in to really drive home the point of why Ripley's taking this approach. I mean, just generically, you can understand it.
She's going to have mother instincts and want to protect the little girl.
Right. Like, you go for the generic, like, we understand it's based on what's in the movie, but I think it would have really, I think it would have helped.
Put a little icing on it for you?
Yes. Because the other thing is, if you really stop and think about it, the big final battle is between Ripley and the alien queen. So it is two mothers fighting over the fate of their children, essentially. Mm-hmm. So,
couple mama bears.
Yeah, and it's a pretty good fight. Ripley's in the big power loader, and the Queen's like an 18-foot tall xenomorph that's gigantic with like 6 arms and a huge tail and all kinds of fun stuff.
Yeah.
But that was also James Cameron deciding that he was going to answer the question of, well, the ship was full of eggs. Where'd all the eggs come from? Because Alien actually has a deleted scene to answer that question. It does not involve an alien queen. But that's where the franchise has taken things. And if Ridley Scott ever gets to finish his other 2 Alien movies, I don't know if he's going to acknowledge that or not, as far as the Queen.
Speaking of the other Alien movies.
So I'm hoping, that's the one reason among many, I'm hoping he gets to finish them, just to see what he does.
Yeah. So, 2 horror, or action, 1 and 3 horror. Where was Prometheus a drama?
No, to my mind...
I'm not saying it belongs here, I'm just asking what you think.
To my mind, Prometheus and Covenant fall back into the horror category.
Do they? Covenant, maybe. I didn't see that on Prometheus. But I get it. I mean, I understand. It didn't hit me that way.
Oh, okay. Where would you place it?
Drama, I think. Just a drama.
I can see that. Uh, yeah. Have you seen Covenant?
No.
You should.
Okay.
It's
Is it streaming anywhere?
I don't know off the top of my head. I can find out.
If not, I can rent it off Amazon or something.
I have the disc if you got a Blu-ray player. If I can get it
Will
to
it play in my laptop?
it should. How old's your laptop?
5 years.
It should. But yeah. So, and I will throw out an honorable mention, and mainly because I didn't want to take up a third spot on the list here with this. The Alien versus Predator movies should probably also be on this list. The first one is a straight up action movie. There's no horror to it whatsoever. It's an excuse to have a giant fight down in Antarctica and to liberally steal plot elements from At the Mountains of Madness from H.P. Lovecraft. So that's why that movie exists. The second one is a little more serious. It's a very hard R, whereas the first one's PG-13. The second one, it goes some places I should have expected the Alien franchise would go there, given Xenomorph reproduction and the way Geiger designed them and everything. But kind of caught me off guard the way they did some things. So, but yeah, those two honorable mention. Just didn't want to plug a third Alien Predator hybrid movie in the list since Alien and Predator was already on the list.
Which was it? Alien or Predator that met Jason in hell?
Oh, that's Freddy that does.
Oh, so
Yeah, it's the end of Jason. Well, Jason goes to hell because in the end of the movie he does, and as he's being sucked under, the last thing you see is a hand come up and it's got Freddy's glove on it, pulls him down, and then in Freddy versus Jason, Freddy's like, yeah, so I used to terrorize this town, but then the townsfolk realized, hey, if they make the kids not know about me, they can't dream about me, so I can't terrorize them. That really pissed me off. So I found this other guy down here, sent him back, reanimated him, and pointed him towards the town. So you see him in hell, he finds Jason and sends him back, so he reanimates and leaves Crystal Lake and heads to town because the townsfolk are like, oh man, mysterious guy killing people. It's Freddy again, not knowing that there's yet another mystical, unstoppable killing machine floating around. And then Freddy loses control of Jason.
as one does.
Yeah. And then they find it out in the real world.
One doesn't simply reanimate.
Yeah. Yeah, then they find it out in the real world, and because they do the old, grab a hold of Freddy, then wake up, and they're there, at Crystal Lake, and Jason's there, and... So,
Stabby.
Yeah. Yeah, Freddy, or Jason pretty handily destroys Freddy at that point. Because, it's 8-foot tall killing machine versus a guy who was preyed on children.
Yeah.
Not that that's a conclusive fight, by the way, because as they're walking away in, the spirit realm with Jason, holding Freddy's head, he's walking away, zooms into Freddy's, goes So, as dead as one can be when one is a spirit dream demon thing. So yeah, so that is the action horror list. Actually, that would be another honorable mention. Actually, would be Freddy versus Jason. That is almost just a pure action movie, with very limited horror elements.
Well, glad I could contribute something to this
video. So yes, Brad, I appreciate the meandering trail that led us there, but that should be on the list.
It's what I do, Bob. It's what I do.
For whatever it's worth, the other entries in both of those franchises probably don't belong on this list. They're almost slashers. Yeah. Jason X is kind of action heavy, but that'd be the only one. So, but I'd still probably put it with slashers. So, that's just me. So, hopefully you folks got something out of this. If you agree, disagree, put it down there in the comments. Put your own top 10 lists. I've noticed a couple of you have from some of the others. Always good to see movies that we haven't seen. Might make come around this time next year, might do some updated lists. Because I know at least with the zombie list, there might be a movie I just watched the other day might make it on there.
Well, I got one of those on the demon list. I just watched last night.
Okay, gonna keep it a secret though.
Oh, I'll tell you if you want.
Yeah, I'm curious.
So it's a movie called Incarnate. It has Aaron Eckhart is the main character.
I recall hearing the name and it being a demon-esque movie, but
So what
that's
makes
all I know about it.
the new spin on it that they're doing is he's not fighting them as demons through the church. He works with the Catholic Church somewhat, sort of. But he doesn't believe their mumbo jumbo. He's coming at it from a purely scientific, it's a parasite kind of thing.
Okay.
And instead of the power of Christ compels you, he evicts them from the inside out. Like he goes into their brain. Like if you're the one possessed, he goes into your brain, into you, and evicts the demon.
That sounds interesting.
And there's kind of a through line in it where early on he and his family were in a head-on collision where his wife and kids died, and the drunk driver was possessed. And the drunk driver's name was Maggie. So he keeps referring to this entity that had possessed Maggie. So she's Maggie throughout the thing. But it's that same demon that looked over at him through the car or whatever. Right after he was there alive and his wife and son was dead.
Well, that sounds interesting.
It was interesting.
As far as the zombie one, I happened to watch The Living Dead at Manchester Morgue, which I'm aware has like 5 other titles, like some of these zombie movies do.
I've never heard of it.
British zombie movie, 70s. Basically, they're testing some agricultural machine to kill the insects, and what it does is like it drives them crazy to fight each other and kill each other. But like they figure out that, oh wait, it's also doing that to the corpses and bringing them back. Because like enough
Sure.
still functioning. And like there's an inspector who's convinced these 2 people that just showed up that are involved that they're like Satanists or something. And they're like, no, man, it's the dead coming. He's like, oh, the dead coming back to life. Poppycock,
Now the devil.
Yeah.
That's so.
yeah.
Oddly enough, there was another one I saw on one of your lists that was like Witch or something. Had like 5 things. I watched a Witch movie last night too.
Yeah, so far the witch category is at the moment coming up a little short.
So you should watch The Witch. It's on Netflix right now, I believe, or maybe it's HBO.
I've been meaning to. I hear it's good, and also could potentially be like a serviceable prequel to the Blair Witch Project, almost.
Almost, right? And it has a very in the beginning. Well, I guess all the way through, sort of has kind of a M. Night Shyamalan The Village feel to it.
Okay, yeah.
Sort
That's
of.
the vibe I got from the trailers. So.
Right. But it's different. They're like Puritans. It's like very early Virginia or North Carolina.
Yeah.
They kind of move like a day away from the village. I think they called it plantation. But in the very beginning, they're rolling out of the stockade or whatever, and there's natives and Europeans mixing well. Everything's good. But then you get out there, and they're the language in the beginning is very hard because it's very thee and thou and I pray tell what bothers thee.
Yeah.
But I won't even go into the plot at all because it's not like tricky like a M. Night Shyamalan thing. Like there's not a big thing at the end. There is a big thing at the end, but it's not like a flip you on your ear thing.
Yeah. They were dead the whole time.
Yeah. And then Bobby woke up in the shower and it was all just a dream.
Yeah.
But it's good. It's worth watching. And there is a payoff at the end.
All right, I want to check that out. That's probably on HBO Max right now because I think that was.
I think it is on
I think
HBO.
it was on HBO the other night.
So I was at a buddy's house and I was watching it there. So my initial thought was Netflix because I don't have Netflix at home. So when I'm there, I watch Netflix.
Yeah.
But I think I was watching it with his wife after he went to bed, and I think in search of that movie, I went and looked for it. I don't think it was on Netflix. I think it was on HBO.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So,
Excuse me.
some possible other movies you're going to be hearing about soon. So, like I was saying, if you agree or disagree with the list, make some comments down there. Share your own top 10 list. Otherwise, if you like what you heard, subscribe, give us a thumbs up, give us a thumbs down. I can't stop you. I would ask humbly, if you do give us a thumbs down, please tell us why. Like constructively, not like oh, you guys suck. Like
Yeah, we don't want to hear criticism like you guys are just too pretty to look at, or your intellect makes us feel really stupid. That doesn't do any good. But like if it's real stuff, like I just think that your list is wrong because you left out these 3 movies that I think go right here, or you don't like a production value or whatever it is. If it's if you do leave a thumbs down, which is fine, it's your opinion and you're entitled to it, and we want to hear it. But we also want to hear why you thought so, please.
yes, because like I said, like we're driving at. If it's something we can improve, we will try to. So,
For lack of a better word.
yeah. So otherwise, folks, we will see you next time.
Make the algorithms dance.